This episode is brought to you by Fuli Gemstones.
One of the things we did very well, I think, is we promoted this idea that diamonds from the earth were so important. And we would give examples about how rare diamonds from the earth were. And I remember when I went on television, I would say things like, if you took the Empire State Building and filled it with dirt, you would find 1 carat of diamonds if that were, in a mine. That's how rare it is. The diamonds are rare and from the earth.
I'm Carol Woolton, the voice of jewellery. Welcome to If Jewels Could Talk. I'm an author and broadcaster, and the woman who initiated the role of jewellery editor at magazines like Tatler and Vogue. This is a podcast for everyone, for people who do like jewellery, for people who don't realise they like jewellery, and anyone intrigued by fascinating facts, new ideas and forgotten histories. So join me as I tell sparkly tales and meet all sorts of people, delving into 4 centuries of jewellery culture and investigate what's happening now. I'm very happy that I'm in sunny Palm Beach, and I am here because I wanted to get together with Joan Parker, who was the director of the Diamond Information Centre. Now, this is the PR arm of De Beers Consolidated Mines, and this was the big job because De Beers at that time really controlled the diamond market, and they controlled all the advertising for the diamond industry, and this was all run by Joan. Joan, thank you very much for talking to us today.
Well, it's wonderful to be here and to see Carol, who also, we worked together very much when I was in the diamond business, and she and I did a lot of fun things together promoting diamonds.
It was great fun. I mean, we went sort of everywhere, didn't we?
Yes.
And got up to all kinds of escapades. But anyway, Joan, what I want to talk to you about is I want people to know really how to promote jewellery and diamonds, because you were the guru of your time in doing this. So can you tell me how to go about it? How did you go about that job?
It was very interesting. People used to always ask me when I had a diamond on, is that a De Beers diamond? And I had to explain to them, there are no De Beers diamonds. That what we did is we promoted generic diamonds. When you own 85% of the market, you don't have to worry about whose diamond it is. So we only had to create a demand for diamonds, any diamond, anyone's diamond, helped De Beers because they owned 85% of the diamonds in the world. So what we did is the agency that I worked for was called NW Air, and they're the ones that started the slogan, "A diamond is forever." I mean, that was today still. I mean, Diamond is Forever was back in the 1950s. Today it is one of the most well-known slogans in the world still.
And that was Frances Geraghty, the copywriter.
Right, Fancy Geraghty.
And did you know her?
Yes. Well, I didn't know her when she actually was the copywriter who did the slogan, but I got to meet her later on. And it was very interesting that she got a low salary of a copywriter in an advertising agency. She developed this slogan, and she never got any more money for that slogan than what her salary was at that point in time. And when the 50th anniversary of Diamond is Forever came about, the De Beers invited her to go to London to a dinner celebrating the slogan. She was rather frail at that time, and I was asked to take care of her, bring her over and take care of her. It was the most exciting thing that ever happened in her life. I mean, she couldn't have cared that she got money or didn't get money, that she was celebrated. She sat at the table with Harry Oppenheimer, and we put her up.
He was the chairman of De Beers.
Yes, the chairman. And we put her up at the Connaught Hotel. And what I didn't realize, she was so frail that she couldn't get out of the bathtub by herself. I mean, at one point I had to send the bell boys up to help her out of the bathtub. And I mean, so the whole time I was there, I was a caretaker actually for her. But this was the thing for her whole life that she would probably remember. And she was wonderful.
But did they compensate her in any other way for the fact that you used this?
No. And in fact, I think they gave her some something symbolic at the dinner. But you know,
I hope it was a diamond.
No, and I don't think it was a diamond. I don't think it was a diamond.
So it's kind of mean.
Well, I mean, I think about it. You'd think that, but you know, that was the agency business. You didn't get paid for things like that. And anyway, it was wonderful to meet her, and it was the diamond is forever to this day. Is still so well known and still used.
Used.
But the interesting thing is the jewelry that we put in ads, we would get from a manufacturer, and we would not use his name. We would just put in the diamonds, and we'd say, you know, put it as diamond is forever. My job was to create the demand for diamonds, and I did that through lots of ways. A big portion of our job was working with celebrities and getting diamonds on the red carpet, because to Americans, our royalty are celebrities. You know, London royalty is one thing. Ours were celebrities.
Well, we take it for granted now that's par for the course for a red carpet event. But it wasn't, was it? It wasn't always really done. People were still, back in the day, wearing sometimes their own jewellery or little-known jewellers, and they weren't being basically paid and cajoled into wearing
Right. I think probably it developed into, they wore their own jewelry probably in the way back when. But at the time I came on the scene, we did all kinds of things to get them to wear diamonds. What we didn't want to see rubies and emeralds on the red carpet.
So what did you do? What kind of things did you do?
Well, one of the things we would do is we would go out to LA, and we would have like a showroom in a suite in a hotel, and we'd have an array of diamonds there. And then the stylists are the people that, you know, the stylists are the ones you have to really to try to get the diamonds on their clients. And the stylists, you know, ruled what they wore. So they would come to our showroom, and they would pick out things that they want to take and try on, you know, with their when they put the fashions, whatever designer they were using at the time. So my job also was really to kind of get to know and romance the stylists, so that they would get my jewelry there. But I had a couple of interesting, you know, experiences.
And also the stars. I mean, I remember in Cannes once walking with you along the Croisette, and you saw somebody doing a photo shoot, a star, and I can't remember now who it was, and you said, hold on a second, Carol, and off you ran, and 10 minutes later you came out and said, fine, she's wearing diamonds. I mean, you just used to nab people in the street, didn't you?
Not exactly, but Cannes was a whole other new thing, because the Cannes Film Festival was very different. The Cannes Film Festival, I got to see more of the stars one-on-one. And we were always soliciting, trying to, you know, get them to wear the diamonds. But I had a couple of, you know, I had interesting experiences.
Did you offer them incentives, or was it just?
Well, it's interesting that the rumor was that Chopard, who was the people who actually had more diamonds in Cannes than anybody else, that they were paying money. We never knew for sure, and they never admitted it, obviously, you know. But I had experiences where I had to promise things. We never promised money.
What did you promise?
Well, I had one experience when I was trying to get Queen Latifah was on it was the Golden Globes, and she was being awarded for the for the movie Chicago. And I actually had to go to her hotel room in LA, bring the jewelry with me up to her hotel, and she was sleeping. And I had to wait an hour for her to wake up. And I was sitting there with her, whoever her entourage was. She woke up, she came out in her bathrobe, and she looked at this necklace. She said, you know, I like that necklace. Let me keep it. And we're talking about, I'm giving them very expensive jewelry, just, you know, said, let me leave that in my hotel room overnight, you know, and I'll decide tomorrow. And then the problem was we didn't have a matching earring for the particular necklace. So I was calling all over LA to find somebody, a retailer in there that would loan me his earrings to give to her to wear with the necklace. So I left it overnight. And then we promised to give her $30,000 for her charity. Uh-huh. And that was the deal. We said, we'll give you $30,000 for your charity. And I think it was because their charity was AMFAR, and we supported AMFAR. So I waited till the next morning, and I had to go back over that next morning. And, you know, hopefully she was going to wear my jewelry. But you never knew for sure till they got on the red carpet. Anything could happen in between the time you leave.
Well, somebody else will get to them and say, have some rubies.
Oh, yeah. And there were people sometimes lined up from different places, you know, waiting to see the celebrities. So it was always a little bit of a fight, but you never knew. And in fact, one time I had a very interesting experience. Scarlett Johansson was just getting popular, and she'd done one movie, I think, then. And she was getting an award in Palm Springs, newest actress or something, or some award. And I did something. I worked with a magazine that had her on the cover in LA, and they did a party for her in an LA suite. The party was in her honor, and we had a array of jewelry there. And we put jewelry on her, and I got somebody to photograph her and so forth. And then she asked me, and this was the day when she wasn't so well known. She asked me, could I borrow a piece of one of this jewelry for her Palm Springs award show? And the interesting thing was Tiffany was the sponsor of that award show. And at that time, the jewelry had become branded, and it was De Beers jewelry. And I'll explain that in a minute what that was. But we got it on her at Tiffany. My friends at Tiffany were so mad at me, saying, that she went to a Tiffany event wearing my jewelry and not their jewelry. Because she asked us who she borrowed. And then I became friends with her directly. So I was able to give her jewelry when she later on for different award shows and things that she went to.
Well, I guess that's part of the job as well, that you had to earmark people who were going to become big. I remember one night going with you to an AMFAR event, and it was quite a long time ago. Gael Garcia Bernal was in the Motorcycle Diaries and was having huge success, and he came with his girlfriend, who was a beautiful young actress, and so you got jewelry on her, and it was probably an amazing event for her because she was not then a huge star. And when we came out, we were in one of these places in the south of France where there are little winding roads, and there was basically limo lock. And all these celebrities, Sharon Stone, I think, was doing the auction, were trying to get in their cars, couldn't get in their car. And you said, oh, to hell with this, we're not waiting here. And there was some kind of farmer's truck coming by. And you said, come on, get in, everybody, get in. And so this girl who thought this was the night of her life got in this farmer's truck, stuck in the back, and we all went back to Cannes in that instead of waiting for the limo. Do you remember that?
I can't remember. That's funny. That's right. I mean, I remember so many Cannes stories that I have, but no, I don't remember that actress.
Yes,
no,
so we all sort of bumped in the farmer's truck back to Cannes while people were waiting for their limos.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Well, anyway, Cannes was is an interesting place because number one, it's known for more jewelry robberies than anywhere else in the world. And
because it's over 10 days, it's spread out,
right? And a lot of robberies in Cannes. So if I just back up about our big event there that we had, I have to tell you, we were introducing a De Beers brand for the first time. And to go back to explain that generic diamonds is what we promoted until some very good marketing firm in Boston told De Beers that you've promoted this, a diamond is forever, and jewelry, but you've never had an actual De Beers piece of jewelry. How silly is that? That people should be asking for a De Beers brand. So they went into partnership with LVMH and a joint venture, and then LVMH and De Beers opened retail jewelry stores around the world. And there was a De Beers brand of jewelry, actual brand of jewelry. And I, at that point, left the Diamond Information Center, and I went to join the new joint venture. And when I did that, my job was to promote De Beers jewelry. So I decided that the Cannes Film Festival had more photographers there than anywhere in the world other than the Olympics. So let's introduce it at Cannes. So we went to Cannes, and I got, at that point, we had Iman, who was married to David Bowie.
As the face of the brand.
The face of the brand. And we picked her for lots of reasons. First of all, diamonds look beautiful on black skin. And also because there were always issues with De Beers in South Africa and apartheid, and it was good for us to have a brand image of a black woman as well. But she also looked beautiful, obviously, with the diamonds. So she came to Cannes, and we decided to introduce the brand at an AMFAR event where Sharon Stone was going to be an auctioneer, and Elizabeth Taylor was going to be the honoree or something of the event. So I had to get my jewelry on Sharon Stone. That was also a big deal. So Sharon, she sent me pictures of her dress. I sent her pictures of what we wanted her to wear, and then she was going to auction off the first piece of jewelry at the event. So I waited for Sharon to walk down the red carpet, I remember, and thank God she had on my jewelry. But the biggest thing is we put him on in what was called the Millennium Star in a necklace. It was a 205 carat diamond in a necklace to walk down the red carpet. Now, remember being in Cannes with lots of jewelry robberies, how we had the Brinks truck bringer, and it was the security had to be great, right? So Sharon Stone auctioned our necklace, and we were so worried that it wouldn't go for the right price. So we actually had gotten Harvey Weinstein, who was very involved with the Amphar event then, to agree that he would bid on the piece of jewelry so we could get the price up. So Sharon went and she did the auction. She actually went and sat on the lap of the Prince of Monaco to get him to get the bid up. She said, "Oh, come on." And she was an auctioneer saying, "Come on, well, you can spend some money on this, can't you?" And so the bid went up, and Harvey put in a bid, and we finally got it up to $100,000, which we felt was very good at that time. So the auction's over, and now Elizabeth Taylor's on the stage.
So who bought it?
The guy that bought it was he lived in LA, and he had he bought it for a live-in girlfriend, and I later found out actually that he died of AIDS. And Amphar was an AIDS charity. But then the interesting thing was, so here's Aman in the necklace, and Elizabeth Taylor's on the stage, and Sharon's on the stage. So I went to Harvey. At that point, Harvey was a big supporter of Amphar, and I said, "Let's get him on the stage with them. Can we get him on the stage?" I kept pestering him, we get him on the stage, get him on the stage. So he said, "Okay, Sharon, okay." Got her on the stage, and Elizabeth Taylor looks at this 205 carat diamond on her neck, and she goes and looks at it and says, "Oh my God," and she goes lunging for it. And that picture, the photographers took that photo, went all over the world. It was the biggest success. I mean, so a lot of PR can be luck too. You get a good idea, but boy, a lot of it is luck. And that was fabulous because we got that picture all over the world.
But also, it's your dogged pursuit of pestering to get her on the stage.
Right.
And I think in a way, you have to have quite a thick skin to be able to do that, to sort of cold call people, go up to strangers, push things.
Yes.
Do you think so? Do you think you have that nature?
Yes, I think that's true. I think that is true. I mean, I have no problem doing that.
Whereas I'd cringe and I wouldn't be able to do it.
Now, but you know what? I didn't. To go back a little bit, when I was promoting generic diamonds, I had a lot of interesting experiences. What we did there, besides getting jewelry on celebrities, we had to do a lot of things about just associating diamonds in the right place at the right time. I mean, like, for example, Chris Everett, she dropped a diamond bracelet on her...
The tennis player.
Now, that was not called a tennis bracelet. That was a diamond bracelet that she dropped. We picked that up, and we started calling that a diamond tennis bracelet. So we developed that brand name, a diamond tennis bracelet. And to this day, it's one of the most popular pieces of jewelry. But what the reason it's good to do that is you start a trend, yes, but you also make it easy for men to go in and buy something for a woman. Men go into a diamond jewelry store to buy something if they want to buy a gift. They have no idea what they want to buy. If you promoted a brand or an item like diamond tennis bracelet, it's easy for them. That let's say, I want a diamond tennis bracelet. It's sort of easy. But we did start that trend for the diamond tennis bracelet. And again, we did another one where Halston did a show in New York, and he had Tiffany diamond chains on all the models. And we started calling that diamonds by the yard.
What? So Elsa Peretti didn't start calling it diamonds by the yard?
That was right. It was Elsa Peretti who, I was her jewelry. I forgot that. It was her jewelry. But again, it was generic, but we had to then start promoting it as a trend. Diamonds by the yard trend. And get everybody, like today, all jewelers around the world, have diamonds by the yard and call it diamonds by the yard.
How could you evaluate what was the most successful way to get the diamond message across? Whether it was pure advertising, getting on celebrities, creating trends. How did you evaluate the success?
It was a combination of everything. It was associated with celebrities, of course, meant a lot, but it was also getting magazines and people like you, Carol, when you were a jewelry editor of Vogue magazine, getting you to put the jewelry in the magazine and creating relationships with people who were important on magazines that would put stories on about diamond jewelry in the magazine.
I did come to LA over the Oscars one time when you were working for De Beers talking about getting diamonds in magazines, and we did a 6-page story. And that wildflower necklace that you were talking about,
Right.
the Queen
Latifah wore.
We made that the sort of holding double-page image in the magazine. And then I came and interviewed Iman with you.
Right.
About her role. I remember that. Do you remember that?
Yes, I remember that well. That was the thing, is I had a relationship with you and got you to come to the Academy Awards in LA, and then we worked together on the story. So that was, that was a lot of what we used to do. Also, is we used to invite the New York press to come to London for Ascot and Cartier, the polo. Mm-hmm. And that was developing a relationship with them, because at the when they would come for Ascot, and the De Beers was always involved with Ascot, and we would do just developing the relationship with them, and they always loved that weekend that they had the polo on Sunday and had Ascot on Saturday, and but that was developing relationships, which is what a lot of it was all about.
But I guess PR is always the thing that no one can quite say what it brings in return, can they? I often hear brands say, "Oh, we don't know if the PR is working. We don't know what we're getting from it." I mean, how do people know what they're getting from PR?
Well, you can tell from jewelers if an item has gotten popular. That we can research and we can find out. You can't really know how much buying of diamonds you get off of a story. It's hard to know how many people go and see something and that they decide that they want to buy diamonds because of it. It's hard to know that. The only thing we can ever judge is how much coverage we get. We can always we can research, and we have year to year, we know how much coverage we have from one year to the next, and how important the coverage is, how many readers or how many listeners have seen our story on diamonds. That we can judge, but we don't know how that increases the demand necessarily of people who are reading it. But you were saying about relationships. I had a relationship with John Galliano, who was at that time was the darling of Vogue magazine in New York.
He sort of still is, really.
Well, he had a bad time for a while. He went out of favor. But when he was in favor, Anna Wintour, the editor-in-chief of Vogue magazine, brought him to New York and did a party for him. And I remember it was down in the Village, and she asked us if we would pay for it, if we would sponsor it. So we said, of course, we would sponsor it. So we did, and we got some important people there in diamonds, models and people in diamonds. And so I got to know John Galliano from that. And then when he did his first big show in Paris, I was in Paris for the show. And I'd gotten jewelry from Fred Leighton at that time when we were still into generic diamonds. And I got them to put that diamonds on in his show for the whole show, which was because he was the new darling that all the press was following. And I left that night, I remember, to go back to my hotel. And I just left the jewelry there. And I found out later that one of the models dropped the jewelry came off her neck, and they never found a necklace. They lost a necklace. A diamond necklace at that event. But I should have actually stayed to see that all the jewelry got put away, but I didn't. And I had left after the show. But I did then, I worked with John Galliano, and I tried to get Van Cleef & Arpels in New York to do a brand of John Galliano jewelry. And he designed some things, and I went to see the then CEO of Van Cleef, and he presented it to his board. And they turned it down because they didn't think that he was high enough level for them at the time. At that time, he was very popular, and it would have been a very good thing for them to do it, but they didn't. They didn't. But we tried. But that's the kind of thing we would always look for, an opportunity where we could get diamonds, do something.
So do you think the most important thing in a role like yours is to get out and meet as many people as possible?
Oh, absolutely. Oh, absolutely, absolutely. That's very important. And to the and
Do you
again,
think that's changed now with the internet, or do you think it remains the same?
well, very interesting is when I was doing the Diamond Information Center, and I had lunch every day with an editor. Usually nobody goes to lunch with an editor anymore. Nobody. I mean, when I have called in later years, I would call somebody, and they'd see the first person that's called me on the telephone to have lunch. I mean, people just don't do it anymore. Everything is done through the internet. I mean, everything's done online. Everything's done. Nobody calls an editor anymore. And also, editors had time to do it then.
And I think advertising's so obvious now. There isn't that sort of shimmery line of having to talk to editors about creating stories, because really, if they want that, they do a promotion, or they do a collaboration, or they do an advertisement. So it's slightly different, isn't it?
Well, I just think it's a whole different world with the everything online now. It's very different than it was in my day. I mean, I found that I enjoyed that part of the business, actually. I thought that was sort of the fun part, was getting to know people and doing things with them, personally doing things with them. But that's all changed completely. But some other things you were talking about, that how we promoted jewelry, you forget a very important part of the role was the diamond engagement ring. Mm-hmm. We wanted to make sure that diamond was the first choice for an engagement ring always. And we would have a heart attack when some famous person would have a ruby engagement ring, or something like that. That was very important to us, that if somebody was talking about their engagement ring. So there are a lot of things we did for that. And an interesting thing about the advertising that we did then, there's a thing called the 4 C's, which is what we tell people to look for in a diamond. And in fact, I would go on television a lot, and I would have a display of diamond engagement rings, and I'd explain how you price diamonds, and it's according to the color, the clarity, the color, the carat weight.
And the cut.
And the cut, and all that is what it makes the price of a diamond. And I would explain it where you could see a large diamond that costs less than a small diamond. And I was on the Today Show, on The View, and a lot of different television shows, and I would bring all the diamonds and show it to people. But another thing that they did, which is very interesting and clever, is they found that men never knew how much to spend on a diamond. And they would think, what did my parents spend on a diamond engagement ring? And of course, we didn't want them to spend what their parents spent. We wanted them to spend more money. So they started this advertising that said, you should spend 2 months of your salary on your engagement ring. And so the people would have a guideline to get them to spend more money. And another thing that we did is research showed when a woman shopped with a man and a diamond engagement ring, that the woman would get him to buy less. She always would feel, I guess, that she didn't want to seem like she was being too greedy. So they would spend less so we wanted to get them away from shopping with a woman for an engagement ring. So what we did is we did stories on how to surprise her with a guy in diamond engagement. These are all kinds of ways to go surprise her.
Subtle manipulation.
Yeah, exactly. But that's, that was advertising.
That was the name of the game.
Name of the game, right. Some of the other exciting things that we did, we had an award competition called the Diamond International Awards. And what we did is that it was international, and what we did is get designers from all around the world to give us sketches of a piece of diamond jewelry that was sort of unusual. And we had judges from around the world to judge it. And from the sketches, we would pick a selection, and then they would make that piece of jewelry for a collection that we would then do an award ceremony. And they were all done in major cities around the world. But what's interesting about that is the judges could never tell where the jewelry came from, and it would be on the back of the sketch. And we would always, after the competition, want to know how many Americans won. The Italians would want to know how many Italians won, or how many Japanese won. Everybody wanted their country to have more winners than everyone else. But we would do very exciting competitions, like in Paris and London and Tokyo, Milan, where we would do a ceremony. And we had very famous judges. We had judges like John Loring, was then the chief designer in Tiffany, and we had Andrew Leon Talley, who was the big fashion guru and from Vogue.
Editor-at-large at Vogue.
Yeah, editor-at-large at Vogue. We would have, famous people be the judges. So we did those every other year. We did a new collection. And then we would take that collection and we tour it around the world. So it would appear we'd have in different cities and have a big party there that would get publicity.
So it's just constantly making opportunities to
right.
put diamonds in front of people.
Right.
And do you think that doing that PR for diamond jewelry is different to promoting any other product, luxury product?
I don't notice that much of other brands doing as much of what we did. I think we probably were a little more aggressive.
Well, you probably had bigger budgets than people have now.
We did. No, that's probably a very good point. A lot of things we did cost a lot of money. We did for example, we did an exhibition in the Museum of Natural History in New York where I actually negotiated that. And I had to go back to De Beers, tell them it was going to cost a couple $1 million, for them to do this exhibition, but why it would be worth it. And they did a whole exhibition on the diamond, taking it from the mine to the cutting to the retailer and stories about it and showing product. And it was an enormous exhibition that they put on for a couple of months. But they had to spend a couple $1 million to do that. And I had to prove to them it was worthwhile.
And it was?
I think we got a lot of people walking through that exhibition, walking through it from New York and other out-of-town people.
And the global publicity.
Yes, and of course, it was an important thing as far as the PR went. But the other thing is interesting is that during that time, part of my job was crisis management too. I mean, we had a lot of issues. Remember, apartheid was a big issue. And remember, blood diamonds was a big issue. And
now we've got lab-grown diamonds. I'm interested to hear what you think about that.
I will go into that, yes, because that's why a lot of people say they didn't want to buy a diamond for reasons that had to do with the two things I just mentioned, then decided maybe a lab-grown diamond would be.
So there's always a challenge to the industry to
always
overcome.
A challenge. And one of the things we did that very well, I think, is we promoted this idea that diamonds from the earth were so important. And we would give examples about how rare diamonds from the earth were. And I remember when I went on television, I would say things like, if you took the Empire State Building and filled it with dirt, you would find 1 carat of diamonds if that were, in a mine. That's how rare it is. The diamonds are rare. And from the earth is the only thing that you should look for is something that comes from the earth. It takes so much earth to promote 1 diamond, to get 1 diamond. So that's why diamonds are so expensive too. It's to create the price. People understand why diamonds are expensive.
Was it you who came up with the idea? I seem to remember this being spun to me from the Diamond Information Centre, that if you put all the diamonds on Earth into one, they'd only fit into 1 double-decker bus.
Well, I never used the double-decker bus thing. But I know I used the Empire State one. That I talk about that one a lot. But we did the other thing we did. We had to explain to people the good diamonds did instead of the bad diamonds did from the blood diamond. Like Botswana, most of the diamonds come from Botswana, not from South Africa. Number one, and the diamonds in Botswana help. Really, that country, the economy of that country is one of the best in Africa, was always Botswana. And that was because of the diamond market that they were able to do the good that they did to people, the people in that country. The message that I had to give all the time was that when it was the challenge of apartheid, it was that the majority of diamonds do not come from South Africa. That was a big point, to make people know where they came from. And South Africa was way down the line of where diamonds came from. So that was an important way. We couldn't, I knew, and all of us knew, that Mandela and the De Beers company were all very much against apartheid. And, but people, you couldn't tell that story to people. They say, if you were so powerful, why couldn't they do something about it? But the story I had to give was diamonds don't come necessarily from South Africa. That was that one. And on blood diamonds, we had to prove that we were not promoting diamonds from the Congo, where where all these atrocities were taking place, and that we were not involved in that. And that at some point, I was on a committee where we all were part of what made the diamonds were then had to come through customs, had to have a certificate saying where they would come from. And there was a very big thing about
the Kimberley process.
Yes, the Kimberley process, and we actually developed that. I was one of the people on a committee that developed that, to have diamonds that people could go in a store and say, where my diamonds come from, and they could tell them where they were coming from.
So, given that you had to face those challenges, what would you do now if you were still working to combat lab-grown stones? What would be your message?
Well, it's a very easy one, and it's interesting because I actually did at the end of my career promote lab-grown diamonds, which I can tell you about. I did do that at the end of my career.
I remember, and I was horrified.
I know, everybody was horrified, including De Beers. Right? But it's a very easy message. They're not from the earth. They're not diamonds from the earth, and they don't have the same romance and the same kind of image. And we did such a good job of promoting diamonds from the earth that when I did, at one day at the end of my career, when I was asked if I would help the company that started lab-grown diamonds in the States after I'd left De Beers, I would go into retail stores and I would talk to them about lab-grown diamonds, and they'd say, we won't touch it. We did too good a job on telling people that they had to come from the earth.
I know, but now the younger generation, Gen Zs, think they're an ethical choice because they don't come
exactly.
from the
It's changed. That has all changed.
So how would you combat that?
If I were doing it today, I think just try to associate the diamonds from the earth that are not lab as they're more valuable, and they are, because the lab-grown diamonds don't have the resale value that a diamond has. The pricing of diamonds increases over the years. The pricing of lab-grown diamonds does not. And plus the fact that it's the romantic association of the real diamond it would be part of what I would try to be promoting now if I were doing it today. But it is true that lab-grown diamonds have grown tremendously, and
they're really infiltrating the market, but it's quite a sort of muddied outlook. People aren't quite sure. They're not. I think it needs much more sort of transparency and education about what each is and what it means.
Well, the lab-grown diamond, interesting enough, is like a cultured pearl. It's actually developed in a machine.
Yeah.
And it
but cultured pearls were cultured because there were none left. There are plenty of diamonds. We don't need lab-grown, do we?
Well, we still say that people still say diamonds are rare. That's one of the things that is part of the promotion thing.
They're not, are they?
That diamonds. Well, I'm not so sure how many diamonds are out in the market. I tell you one thing. It's true. That is when my late husband wanted to buy me a diamond, and he said to me, it was for my 50th birthday, and he said, I want to buy you a diamond over 5 carats for your birthday, and where shall I go? So we didn't buy diamonds directly from De Beers. We had to buy them through a dealer. So I remember we went up to Lazar Kaplan, and that's actually Maurice Templesman, which was Jackie Onassis' boyfriend, Maurice Templesman. We went up there, and I said what I wanted was a 5-carat pear-shaped diamond, and I wanted one that was pretty good in terms of almost the clarity and so forth. I wanted a really good one. Well, they went all over the country to try to get them there. There were not many to find.
That was a big stone, though. That's a big stone.
Well, yeah. So, yeah. I mean, maybe tiny ones are easier to find, but I remember that so well that he couldn't find. There were very few 5-carat what I wanted pear-shaped diamonds in the United States that he could get hold of. So, and I do think at that point, I don't know how many diamonds are mined today, by who, I don't keep track of that, but I think promoting them as being rarer than lab-grown. But I think that they think the lab-growns, they don't hold their value. That's the one thing. You go to sell a lab-grown diamond, like you're selling costume jewelry.
Yeah.
I think that's a big difference.
So tell me about the Millennium Star, because there was an attempted theft on that.
Right.
Not just Elizabeth Taylor on stage trying to grab it. That was a proper one.
Well, the first thing is where it came from. It came from Zaire, and this digger in Zaire found this. It was 777 carats before it was cut, and he found that, and he took it. He put it in his pocket or something. He took it to the De Beers in Zaire. I guess there's a De Beers office at the time, to try to sell it to them. And word got out, actually, that they found this diamond, and there were all kinds of people surrounding the place where he brought it. I guess it was a De Beers office there or something. And they surrounding it, and the rumor had gotten out about it, and the government had found out about it. And I remember the story I was told was that somebody from there there was a plane coming in from London, and they had to climb over a fence so people didn't see them and wait for this plane to come in to get the diamond out of Zaire. And at the time that the plane took off, a plane from the government came in at the same time. They were all trying to get hold of that diamond. So the diamond was cut. They found it was a perfect stone, which was very rare. And they cut it. It took years and years to cut the stone, and they cut it down to 225 carats. Which 203 carats, I think it is, was pretty amazing, right? And it was perfect, a perfect stone. So the Millennium Star, we were worrying about it being stolen when it was in Cannes on Iman that night, but then it ended up in the Dome in London when
it was the
Millennium. It was the 2000,
yes.
The Millennium, and they were looking for something to put in the Dome, and it was kind of remember the Dome was some foolish kind of building that was built because on the Millennium I can't remember the story behind it, but I remember it was always controversial.
Yes, because it wasn't very beautiful, and it wasn't meant to last.
Whatever it was, I remember that. But what they did is they put the Millennium Star in a case in the Dome, and at midnight at 2000, Queen Elizabeth was there. Remember, Prince Charles didn't go, but Queen Elizabeth was there. And they had lasers. Were you there, Carol?
No.
They had lasers there at midnight, when midnight came. It was like a big deal. It was a big publicity thing for the Diamond Star. So it sat there on exhibition, and people who came to London during that time, that was one of the tourist attractions, was to go see the Millennium Star in the Dome. So evidently, a gang of thieves decided that they were going to steal it. And they had come up with some ingenious way that they could crack and crash the case it was in, which was supposed to be indestructible, so we had been told. And they had a plan that they were going to, it would take 5 minutes for them to get through with it. They had some kind of a digger. So evidently what their plan was to get the diamond, and then they had a boat at the Thames that they were going to ride away with it. So, but it all had to be timed, so it was took just minutes for them to get away. Well, what happened was that I guess that among the thieves was a plant. So they knew about it ahead of time. Scotland Yard knew about it. So when the gang came to the Dome to do it, they had 300 policemen, they had riflemen, they had all kinds of people there waiting for them. And they had to wait for them to do it. It took them seconds to crack the case. They were all arrested. By the way, to say the Millennium Star was worth probably £250 million, something like that. So I was told.
And that went round the world.
Yeah.
Joan, are you sure you didn't set up that attempted theft to get publicity?
You know what was interesting? It's funny you say that, because I happened to be in London. Did I know there was going to be a theft? I was in London at the time. And the next day, it was on the headline in all the papers, and everybody said, Joan, did you set that up? Because I was there. Did you set this up to get publicity? Exactly what my friends said. Another event we did, which was interesting, when I told you back about that De Beers opened retail stores with LVMH, the first one was in New York on Fifth Avenue. And I had to come up with a creative way to introduce the store when it opened. Now, everybody had celebrities walking down into their store with pictures taken. It was sort of That was something.
Old hat.
Old hat. It was very old hat, right? To get celebrities in. So what I did is I hired this decorator then called David Mon, and we went and rented a floor, a penthouse floor, in a building in Central Park South. We got the most expensive restaurant in New York was in that building, which is called Per Se. We get them to agree to cater something in this thing, and it was a completely blank condominium. He decorated it from scratch. We borrowed beautiful paintings for the walls. We decorated the whole thing, and we decided to do an opening event in that space. So we got Per Se to do the catering. We did something that was really unusual. You know, people really get bored sitting at the same table with somebody all night, as you may know with many things you go to, right? You sit next to the same person all night. So we decided to do it on trays that we would bring around to different rooms where people could move around. So we did a 5-course dinner, and every course you could sit anywhere you want, and they would take your tray and bring you another tray. And we served Dom Perignon champagne the whole night through it. We invited 100 of the probably creme de la creme of people in New York City and to attend it, and it was just a very unusual way to introduce a brand. And interesting enough, I got the style editor I got the editor in the New York Times that did the style section. His name was Guy Trebay, and we got the front page of that story. In fact, I have it here with me, but it was like the front page of Style that he wrote a whole thing about. This is the way to do an introduction.
How amazing.
You know,
and did people copy you?
No, this is just something,
a one-off.
It's something that I actually just thought up, and again, it was just, looking to do things a little differently. It cost, again, you're saying having money. You have to have a lot of money to do this. It was a very expensive event. But so was the 2 pages in the New York Times that wrote it up when we opened our store. And it was pretty old hat, opening stores and having people walk down the carpet everybody did that. So this made a real splash. And that was the beginning of the introduction of retail stores around the world. Then we did them in LA, we did them in Tokyo and other places. In LA, I had an interesting problem. Celebrities then, some of them were turning away from diamonds because of blood diamonds. So we really had a challenge of introducing it in LA with you could get people to do. We often would have people on strike, doing not on strike. We had people demonstrating.
Well, I remember the De Beers store when it opened in London. There was a lot of demonstrations outside. Right.
I know, and I had a problem with that because Iman, who was the image of the brand, wouldn't come. And she wouldn't come to that opening, and she decided she had a cosmetic brand, and she didn't want people to be, she was afraid of what the fallout would be from her cosmetic brand, so she wouldn't come. So we had a very difficult time, I remember, getting celebrities and opening that store, because that was a very hot time where people were demonstrating against diamonds. And the same thing in Hollywood. There were people who were doing it as well. So we had to be very careful the way we did things and it was always tying in with a charity, which we felt that would be supported by celebrities. But that was an issue for us, for a good 2 years. We did have to strategize, and we were afraid sometimes to do things that we get too many demonstrations.
So do you think for brands now, if they have a budget spend, how much do you think they should split it, advertising versus PR?
I think the thing you have to think about is that PR is more believable. In advertising, you can say what you want to say, and you can get the message pretty loud and clear exactly as you want it. In PR, you cannot. But in PR, somebody else is saying it for you, and it's more believable. So I would say maybe 50-50.
And what was the proudest moment, the one that you thought, my God, I'll never pull that off, but you did?
Oh, I think when I told you the story about Elizabeth Taylor and Iman, that will go down in my career as being my greatest success.
Did you ever have private moments with Elizabeth Taylor trying to get her to wear jewelry?
Oh, yeah. Elizabeth Taylor, you never knew if she was going to show up. You never knew if she was going to, whether she'd be there or not be there, or if she always came late. I mean, we did the photography for did she have she had a diamond perfume, remember? Mm-hmm. And when we went out there to put the diamonds on her when she was doing the commercial for they photographing it in Mexico. But I remember that I had someone from my office, I didn't go, but someone from my office went, and they waited for her. They were in a trailer waiting for her. We brought the diamonds out for her. And like she would be 10 hours late. Yeah. That you never knew with her. Yeah, I did, I did personally, meet her and talk to her. In fact, that evening I talked to her that evening and she, you just never knew what was going to happen with her.
And now what was your worst celebrity moment?
There was an event in Mougins, and we were trying to get, she was a B actress, this one. And that's why I should mention her name, right? At any rate, we had to get a car and a driver for her. We had to get the driver to wait there at the event for her. And we gave her a very expensive necklace. If I remember correctly, it was like $500,000 necklace, and put that on her. And then her driver was waiting for her afterwards, and we were supposed to pick up the necklace. So after the Amphora event was over, I went looking for her, and I couldn't find her. And, we didn't have guards we should have, but we didn't have guards watching for these people. And I couldn't find her. So she was gone. So I left the event not having any idea what happened to my necklace. So when I was calling that night to her stylist. The next morning, I got hold of her stylist, and she said, she took the driver that night and she went to Saint-Tropez for Naomi Campbell's birthday party on the beach. I said, what? She had my necklace and she wore it on the beach at Naomi Campbell's party? And she said, no, she didn't wear it on the beach. She left it with the driver. And then they wanted me afterwards, I got it back, and they wanted me to pay for the driver that had gone from Cannes to Saint-Tropez for her to go to the party. Because we also were supposed to make sure we had security. And I would be in big trouble. If I sometimes I didn't have guards, do the guards. I didn't do it. And
Why not? Why didn't you?
I don't know. It was too much trouble.
That's the thing about Diamond Loney, is that you do have to have that guard following you.
I know, and I just, people didn't want that, and I just, I just felt that I was I felt that I was careful, but I wasn't careful enough, obviously. Another interesting experience was interesting on diamond engagement ring, by the way. We used to have a collection of diamond engagement rings, famous ones, and we would tour that around to get interest in engagement rings. There was an auction at Christie's for Marilyn Monroe's clothes and jewelry and things. And there was an engagement ring that Joe DiMaggio had given her that was not worth that much. It was maybe worth $35,000 or something like that. And De Beers wanted to get it for the collection, so they asked me to go to the auction and bid on it. So I was told I could bid up to $50,000 on it. And that was interesting because I'm bidding on this necklace, on this diamond engagement ring, and it wasn't worth that much money. And I got up $50,000, and I was way overbid on phone bids. I think it went for probably $1 million, and it was because Joe DiMaggio had given it to her.
But talking to you, it seems to me the three important things in doing PR is be incredibly creative, very tenacious, and never be embarrassed.
Yeah, okay.
So just ask anybody anything and keep at it.
Yeah. I think that's true. I think I am tenacious. Right now, I work for the Salvation Army board. I'm on the board of the Salvation Army. I go around asking people for money all the time for things for the Salvation Army. I have no problem doing that. And people say, do you know them? I said, no, I don't know them.
There we go.
I think it's true. I think, and also I think it's looking for, being creative and looking for opportunities is really big. I think that you see something and say, gee, that's something that we could do. I think that, you say what was my proudest moment? I think my proudest moment is that I thought of the Cannes opening for the introduction of De Beers LV. That was my idea, that it worked out to be such a success, that it was my idea to put the Millennium Star on Iman. It was my idea to get Sharon Stone to wear the jewelry and auction it off, and all that I created that, and that it turned out to be such a great success. I mean, I had a lot of helpers to help the things, but it was my idea.
Well, thank you very much, Joan. Thank you for sharing your sparkling career, and it's great to hear these stories.
Oh, well, I enjoyed it, and I enjoyed you were part of it, Carol. I was very sure you were part of my life when I was doing all this.
That's for sure. I think you snuck me in. I gate crashed the Amphar dinners, I think, several times because of you. But thank you. Thank you very much, Joan.
Thank you, Carol.
Thank you for listening. For this and other episodes of If Jewels Could Talk, please go to our website, carolwoolton.com/podcasts. And you can find us on YouTube and at Carol Woolton on Instagram. I hope you've enjoyed it, and if you have, please share it any way you can, and we love to have a rating and a comment, so thank you. And please join me again in 2 weeks for the next Jewelled Nugget. Have you ever stopped to wonder where the most fashionable and stylish women like Miuccia Prada and Kate Moss buy their jewellery? Well, I'm going to take you there. We're off to Milan. No one can say we don't travel on If Jewels Could Talk. So please join me then, and thank you for listening. Bye-bye.
If Jewels Could Talk with Carol Woolton is produced by Natasha Cowan, music and editing by Tim Thornton, graphics by Scott Bentley, illustration by Jordi Labanda. You can find our sponsors at fullygemstones.com and me at carolwoolton.com.